and welcome into Getting Help with Uncle Sam. Very happy today to have with us Representative Barry Moore, 2nd Congressional District. Glad to see you're back home. You've left the madness of Washington.
Yeah, we're glad to be home, Mr. Jack. We'll be home for the rest of October. And
Good.
I think Nancy Pelosi wanted the folks in the district before election, and I think it's because the Democrats are in a little trouble. I think that's how she sees it. But we're glad to be home and certainly happy to be in the district, seeing the folks and kind of back to our roots.
Now, the day goes by, Congressman, that we don't hear more people crossing the border. Do we not have an immigration law already on the books in this country?
We do. We have an immigration law on the books, and the problem is we're not enforcing the laws that we have on
that's-
the books. And I think the biggest issue is the Biden administration shut down the Remain in Mexico policy that President Trump had in place. They stopped construction on the wall, and they said, rather than remain in Mexico, they told everybody, come across the border and apply for asylum here in America, and then we'll give you a court date and a cell phone. Well, then you give them a court date and a cell phone, and they're not taking our calls, they're just taking our phones. And so
Absolutely.
that's kind of what we're up against right now.
So basically, a person can come in here and do whatever they want to do. They have free reign.
And the problem with it, really the biggest issue is the Mexican drug cartel now runs
Yes.
the U.S. They have operational control of the U.S. southern border. And so these people coming into the country, they're having to pay the cartel to cross that border. And so one of the things they can do, if they don't want to make installment payments to the cartels, they can backpack heroin, cocaine, or fentanyl into the country. So we're seeing a rise in illegals, human trafficking, and drugs because the Biden administration and their policies have caused chaos on our southern border.
So anyway, so we have the law, like we say, it's on the books. It's not being enforced. Now, what can be done to change that? Can somebody make you enforce that law?
So, the only thing I think with the executive branch not executing the order, but one thing I think that your folks will find encouraging is I'm good friends with Jim Jordan. And so Jim will be chair of judiciary the next cycle as the Republicans get the majority. And he has already told me that we're going to call Mayorkas in front of the Judiciary Committee. We're going to get to the bottom of this. And just between us, we may end up impeaching him. I don't know yet. But we're going to have to do some things. The laws are there, but Secretary Mayorkas is not doing his job on the southern border. He tries to tell us that they have it under control, but we do not. We know that. 5 million people now in the last 20 months under the Biden administration have crossed into America. 5 million people is almost the population of this entire state of Alabama.
Absolutely.
So they're displacing American citizens, and those people, they're coming here. We're going to have to try to educate them and help care them and all that. So it's going to create a tremendous burden on our economy in a time of recession. And it's just poor policy. I tell everybody that a closed border is truly a compassionate border.
Absolutely. So if they come if they come across the border, can they be shipped to Alabama?
They can be shipped
When I say
wherever.
shipped, it's almost like I'm saying a package. Can they be put on a bus or a plane?
Yes, sir. And we don't track that very well. We don't know where everybody's going. But I was at the emergency intake center where the unaccompanied minors were being shipped in busloads. And the problem was we were sending these young people to places with just a Google address. So we weren't doing background checks on the adults taking custody of these children. So we're aiding and abetting the Mexican drug cartel and human trafficking. And so we don't know where all they're saying. I know Governor Abbott and Ron DeSantis have done a good job in sending them in broad daylight to bring attention to the issue that these border towns cannot continue to sustain. But I think we're having a lot of illegals shipped all over the country, to be honest with you, in airplanes and in buses.
El Paso, Texas, the mayor down there has had enough. It's costing him $300,000 a day.
Yes, sir.
Just for those folks coming across the border. He's shipping them. He's making the Governor Abbott look like he's sending nobody.
Yes. Well, and I think not only the human cost in that, in the sense of just the numbers of people, but just the drugs that are coming in as well.
Yes.
We have a record level of fentanyl deaths, and I tell everybody, tell your kids, your grandkids. I'm getting calls from physicians at our universities. These kids are taking they'll buy a Xanax or something offline, and they shouldn't do that, obviously. But if it's laced with fentanyl, that is a death sentence. And
Yes.
So we're having one individual American die every 7 minutes from overdoses of fentanyl right now. And that's strictly because of that border being open and the cartel. The raw ingredients are coming in from China. It's being put together by the cartel in Mexico and shipped into America. And it's doing those unheard of damages down the road to families and communities.
So we as average citizens, what can we do? Is there anything we actually can do?
So I think
obviously contact your congressman.
Yes,
But
and the congressman is engaged, and I think you'll see the Republicans take a majority. And Jim Jordan said this, and I found this encouraging, is we're going to need some issues. There are going to be some things coming up the next cycle. They're going to want us to raise a debt ceiling. And Jim says we might need to look at a yes if for conservatives. So we say, we'll give you the bump in the debt ceiling if you finish the border wall. But we'll have to start getting something for those conservative votes rather than having leadership go across the aisle, cut a bad deal with the Democrats. We raise a debt ceiling and we get no border wall. So there's some opportunities for us to do some things. We in the House will control the purse strings, and I think that's where it stops. We stop the funding of some of this stuff. We increase the border agents. We shut the border down and don't give them a bump in debt ceiling if they don't build a wall.
Great. Before we close, I want to let our viewers know you're a very accessible representative. You represent the people in a good way. Tell them where you have offices.
So we have offices in Wetumpka, we have offices in Dothan, we have offices in Andalusia. We also now are opening a new office in Troy, Alabama. And if you'll follow us, U.S. Rep Barry Moore, we do mobile office hours. So we also have teams traveling to your communities to take care of you like we are in Wetumpka today.
Right. Well, good. Thank you so much. And just remember, they represent you. Make sure they're doing the job. We'll be right back right after this.